The stranger at my door. I was 83 years old when I accepted that I would die alone. Not dramatically, not with tears or despair. Just a quiet acceptance of reality. I had no children, no spouse, no siblings, no close family. I'd spent my entire life as a foster parent, raising other people's children. 62 children over 40 years. 62 kids who'd come through my door, stayed for weeks or months or years, and then moved on. Some were adopted. Some went back to their biological families. Some aged out of the system and disappeared into adulthood. I'd loved every single one of them, but none of them had stayed in touch. That's the reality of foster care. You give everything you have to these kids. You feed them, clothe them, comfort them, teach them. You become their temporary parent. And then they leave, and you never hear from them again. I understood. I really did. These kids had complicated lives. Trauma, pain. Moving forward often meant leaving the past behind. I didn't take it personally, but it did mean I was alone. My name is Dorothy Chen. I'd been a foster parent from age 35 to 75. 40 years of opening my home to children who needed it. I'd never married, never had biological children. Fostering had been my life's work, my purpose, my calling. But now at 83, living in a small apartment in a senior community, I was facing the end of my life with no one to share it with. I had acquaintances, other residents in the building. We played cards, had coffee, made small talk, but no real connections. No family, no one who would miss me when I was gone. I'd made peace with it, or so I thought. It was a Tuesday afternoon in October when everything changed. I was sitting in my living room reading a book when there was a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I got up slowly, my knees weren't what they used to be, and walked to the door. I looked through the peephole. A man stood there, maybe in his 50s, well-dressed, nervous-looking. I didn't recognize him. I opened the door, keeping the chain on. "Can I help you?" The man looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Mrs. Chen? Dorothy Chen?" "Yes. My name is Michael Torres. You don't know me, but you raised my father." I stared at him. "Your father?" "Yes. His name was David Torres. He was in your care when he was 8 years old. In 1978. I did the math. That was 45 years ago. David Torres. The name rang a bell. Faint. Distant. I remember a David, but I'm sorry I don't remember much. I had so many children over the years. I understand. Can I come in? I have something important to tell you. I hesitated. This could be a scam. An elderly woman living alone. An easy target. But something in his eyes made me trust him. I unlatched the chain and opened the door. Michael Torres walked into my small living room and looked around. "This is nice," he said. "Cozy. Thank you. Please sit down. Can I get you some tea?" "No, thank you. I'm fine." We sat down across from each other. Michael pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. "This is my father, David Torres. Do you remember him?" I looked at the photo. An older man, maybe in his 70s, smiling, kind eyes. And suddenly I did remember. "David," I whispered. Little David with the big brown eyes. He was so quiet, so scared when he first came to me. That's him. He was only with me for 6 months. His mother got clean and he went back to her. I remember being so happy for him. "He talked about you all the time," Michael said. "He said you were the first person who ever made him feel safe. The first person who ever made him feel loved." Tears filled my eyes. I did love him. I loved all my kids. "I know. My father never forgot you. He spent years trying to find you. But you'd moved. Changed your name after you got married." "I never got married." "Oh, I'm sorry. I must have the wrong information. Anyway, he looked for you for years. He wanted to thank you. To tell you what a difference you made in his life." "Where is he? Can I see him?" Michael's face fell. "That's why I'm here. My father passed away 3 months ago. Cancer." The room tilted. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you." He fought hard. But in the end, Michael's voice broke. In the end, he made me promise something. He made me promise that I'd find you, that I'd tell you what you meant to him. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Because Mrs. Chen, you saved my father's life. And by saving his life, you saved mine. I don't understand. Michael took a deep breath. My father was 8 years old when he came to you. His mother was a drug addict. His father was in prison. He'd been abused, neglected. He'd been in 3 foster homes before yours, and all of them were terrible. I nodded. I'd seen it so many times. Kids bouncing from home to home, each experience worse than the last. When he came to you, he was broken. He didn't talk. He didn't trust anyone. He was angry and scared and convinced that no one would ever love him. I remember. He wouldn't let me hug him for the first month. But you didn't give up on him. You were patient. You were kind. You made him feel safe. And slowly he started to heal. He was only with me for 6 months. 6 months that changed his entire life. Mrs. Chen, my father said that those 6 months with you taught him what love looked like, what family looked like, what home looked like. But he went back to his mother. He did. And his mother stayed clean. She got her life together. She raised him. And my father said it was because of you. Because you'd shown him that life could be different. That people could be kind. That he deserved to be loved. I was crying now. I had no idea. He never contacted me. He tried. But he couldn't find you. And as the years went on, he worried that you wouldn't remember him. That he was just one of dozens of kids who'd passed through your home. I remember all of them. Every single one. He would have been so happy to hear that. We sat in silence for a moment. Mrs. Chen, can I tell you about my father's life? About what happened after he left you? Please. Michael smiled. He went back to his mother. She stayed clean for the rest of her life. She worked 2 jobs to support them. She made sure he stayed in school. She loved him. I'm so glad. My father graduated high school. He went to community college. He became a teacher, an elementary school teacher. He said he wanted to help kids the way you'd helped him. My heart swelled. He became a teacher? Yes. He taught for 35 years. He was beloved. He won awards. He changed lives. That's wonderful. He met my mother when he was 25. They got married. They had me and my sister. He was an amazing father. Patient, kind, loving. Everything he learned from you. I didn't do anything special. I just treated him with kindness. That was everything to him. Mrs. Chen, my father used to say that there are 2 kinds of people in the world. People who break you and people who heal you. He said you were the first person who ever healed him. I couldn't stop crying. I wish I could have seen him again. Told him how proud I am. He knew. He always knew. And Mrs. Chen, there's more. My father didn't just change his own life. He changed hundreds of lives. All those students he taught. All those kids he helped. That's your legacy too. My legacy? Yes. You saved my father. My father became a teacher and saved hundreds of kids. Some of those kids became teachers and doctors and social workers. They're out there right now helping people. And it all started with you. With 6 months of kindness you showed to a broken 8-year-old boy. I sat there stunned. I thought my life had been meaningless. That I'd raised 62 children and none of them had cared enough to stay in touch. But maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe the impact I'd made was bigger than I'd realized. Mrs. Chen, I have something else to tell you. My father left you something in his will. What? No. I can't accept anything. Please. He wanted you to have it. He was very specific. Michael pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a check. For $50,000. I gasped. I can't take this. You have to. It was his dying wish. He said you'd probably refuse, but I'm supposed to insist. He wanted you to have it. To thank you for saving his life. But I didn't do anything to deserve this. You did everything. Mrs. Chen, my father was a successful man. He had money. And he wanted to make sure you were taken care of. Please, accept it. It would mean the world to him. I looked at the check. $50,000. It was more money than I'd ever had at one time. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it. Say you'll use it to make your life better. That's all he wanted. Okay, thank you. And please thank your father. Even though he's gone, please thank him for me. I will. Michael stood up to leave. Wait, I said. Can you tell me more about him? About his life? I want to know everything. Michael smiled. I'd love to. He sat back down. And for the next 3 hours he told me about David Torres. About how David had graduated from college. How he'd become a teacher. How he'd met Michael's mother, Rosa, at a community center where they both volunteered. How they'd fallen in love. How they'd gotten married in a small ceremony with just family and friends. How they'd had 2 children, Michael and his sister Sophia. How David had been an amazing father, patient and kind and always there for them. How he'd coached Michael's little league team. How he'd taught Sophia to ride a bike. How he'd helped them with homework and listened to their problems and made them feel loved. How he'd continued teaching for 35 years. How he'd won Teacher of the Year 3 times. How former students would come back years later to thank him for changing their lives. How he'd volunteered at homeless shelters and food banks. How he'd mentored at-risk youth. How he'd spent his entire life trying to help people the way I'd helped him. How he'd been diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago. How he'd fought hard. How he'd stayed positive even when things looked bleak. How in his final days, he'd made Michael promise to find me. To tell me what I'd meant to him. To make sure I knew that I'd mattered. By the time Michael finished, we were both crying. He sounds like he was an incredible man, I said. He was. And Mrs. Chen, he said it all started with you. With those 6 months when he was 8 years old. You planted a seed. And that seed grew into something beautiful. I wish I could have seen it. You're seeing it now. I'm here. My sister is here, well, not physically, but she exists because of you. My children exist because of you. All those students my father taught exist in a better form because of you. That's a beautiful way to think about it. It's the truth. Michael stood up again. I should go. But Mrs. Chen, I want to stay in touch. If that's okay with you. I want you to meet my family. I want you to know the people who exist because you showed kindness to a scared little boy 45 years ago. I'd like that very much. Good. Can I have your phone number? I gave him my number. He gave me his. I'll call you next week. We'll set up a time for you to meet everyone. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for telling me about your father. Thank you for saving him. Michael hugged me. A real hug. The kind of hug you give family. And then he left. I sat in my living room for a long time after he was gone, holding the check, thinking about David Torres. I thought I would die alone. Forgotten. Meaningless. But I'd been wrong. I'd mattered. I'd made a difference. I'd changed a life. And that life had changed other lives. And those lives had changed even more lives. My impact had rippled out into the world in ways I'd never imagined. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. I was connected to dozens of people I'd never met. People who existed because I'd shown kindness to a child 45 years ago. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about David. About all the other children I'd fostered. 62 children over 40 years. What had happened to them? Had I made a difference in their lives too? Or had David been the exception? I decided to find out. The next morning I started searching. I'd kept records. Names. Dates. Whatever information I'd had about each child. I started Googling them. Looking them up on social media. Trying to find out what had happened to them. It was slow going. Many of them had common names. Some had probably changed their names. Some might have died. But I kept searching. And slowly I started finding them. Jennifer Martinez. She'd been with me when she was 12. Angry. Defiant. Convinced the world was against her. I found her on Facebook. She was a nurse now. Married. 3 kids. She looked happy. I sent her a message. Hi Jennifer. This is Dorothy Chen. You stayed with me when you were 12. I've been thinking about you and wondering how you're doing. I hope life has been good to you. I didn't expect a response. But 3 hours later she replied. Mrs. Chen. Oh my God. I can't believe you found me. I've thought about you so many times over the years. You were the only adult who ever believed in me. Thank you for everything you did for me. I'd love to talk to you. Can I call you? We talked for 2 hours. Jennifer told me about her life. How she'd aged out of foster care at 18. How she'd struggled for years. How she'd almost given up. But she'd remembered something I told her. You're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Those words had stuck with her. Had given her strength when she needed it most. She'd gone to nursing school. She'd worked hard. She'd built a life. And she'd never forgotten me. Mrs. Chen, you saved my life. I was so angry when I was 12. I was headed down a bad path. But you showed me that someone cared. That I mattered. That changed everything. I cried hearing that. I'd had no idea. I thought Jennifer had hated me. She'd been so difficult. So angry. But I'd made a difference. I kept searching. Marcus Johnson. He'd been with me when he was 6. Quiet. Withdrawn. Traumatized by abuse. I found him on LinkedIn. He was a social worker now. Working with foster children. I sent him a message. He called me the next day. Mrs. Chen, I've been looking for you for years. I wanted to thank you. You were the first person who ever made me feel safe. The first person who ever showed me what love looked like. I remember you, Marcus. You were so quiet. It took you months to start talking to me. I was terrified. But you were patient. You never pushed. You just let me be. And slowly I started to trust you. What happened after you left me? I was adopted. By a wonderful family. They loved me. They gave me a good life. And I became a social worker because I wanted to help kids the way you helped me. That's beautiful. Mrs. Chen, I work with foster kids every day. And I tell them about you. I tell them that there are good people in the world. People who care. People like you. I was sobbing now. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for telling me that. No, thank you. For everything. Over the next few weeks I found more of them. Sarah, Tommy, Lisa, James, Maria. Some were easy to find. Some took more work. But I found 23 of them. 23 out of 62. And every single one of them remembered me. Every single one of them said I'd made a difference in their lives. Some had become teachers. Some had become social workers. Some had become nurses or doctors or lawyers. Some had struggled. Some had made mistakes. Some had taken hard paths. But all of them remembered the kindness I'd shown them, the safety I provided, the love I'd given. And all of them said it had mattered. I thought I would die alone, forgotten, meaningless. But I'd been so wrong. I'd touched dozens of lives. And those lives had touched hundreds more. My impact had rippled out into the world in ways I could never have imagined. A month after Michael Torres knocked on my door, he came back. This time he brought his family. His wife Jennifer. His 2 children Emma and David, named after his father. His sister Sophia. And her husband and their 3 children. 9 people. All connected to me through David Torres. Through 6 months of kindness I'd shown 45 years ago. We had dinner in my small apartment. It was crowded, chaotic, loud. It was perfect. Emma, who was 10, sat next to me. Mrs. Chen, my dad says you're the reason our family exists. That's a nice way to think about it. He says you saved my grandpa's life. And if you hadn't saved him, we wouldn't be here. I just showed your grandfather kindness. That's all. That's everything, Emma said seriously. My dad says kindness is the most important thing in the world. I hugged her. Your dad is right. After dinner, Michael pulled me aside. Mrs. Chen, I have something else to show you. He pulled out a folder. Inside were letters. Dozens of letters. What are these? Letters my father wrote to you. Over the years. He never sent them because he couldn't find you. But he wrote them anyway. He wanted you to know what you meant to him. I opened the first letter. It was dated 1985, 7 years after David had left my care. Dear Mrs. Chen, I'm 15 years old now. I don't know if you remember me. I was the quiet kid who stayed with you when I was 8. I wanted to write to you to say thank you. Thank you for being kind to me. Thank you for making me feel safe. Thank you for showing me that not all adults are bad. I'm doing okay now. I'm in high school. I'm getting good grades. My mom is still clean. We're doing okay. But I think about you a lot. I think about the things you taught me, how to be kind, how to be patient, how to love. I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help kids the way you helped me. Thank you for everything. David Torres. I cried reading that letter. I opened another one. This one was dated 1995. Dear Mrs. Chen, I'm 25 now. I just got married. Her name is Rosa. She's amazing. I wish you could be here. I wish you could meet her. I wish I could introduce you as the woman who saved my life, because that's what you did. You saved me. I'm a teacher now. I teach 3rd grade. I love it. Every day I try to be the kind of teacher you were to me. Patient, kind, loving. I have a student this year who reminds me of me. Quiet, scared, angry, and I'm trying to help him the way you helped me. I hope I'm doing it right. Thank you for showing me the way. David Torres. There were dozens of letters, spanning 40 years. Letters about his wedding, about the birth of his children, about his career, about his struggles, about his triumphs. Every letter thanked me. Every letter told me I'd made a difference. I read them all, crying the entire time. He never stopped thinking about you, Michael said. He never stopped being grateful. I had no idea. I thought he'd forgotten me. Never. You were always with him. In everything he did. That night, after Michael and his family left, I sat in my apartment surrounded by letters from a man I'd known for 6 months 45 years ago. A man who'd never forgotten me. A man whose life I'd changed without even realizing it. And I understood something profound. We never know the impact we have on others. We never know which small act of kindness will change someone's life. We never know how far our influence will reach. I'd fostered 62 children. I thought most of them had forgotten me. But I'd been wrong. I'd planted seeds. Dozens of seeds. And those seeds had grown into forests. Forests I'd never seen. Forests I'd never known existed. But they were there. Growing. Spreading. Touching lives I'd never meet. That was my legacy. Not loneliness. Not being forgotten. But love. Kindness. Impact. I wasn't dying alone. I was surrounded by the echoes of every life I'd touched. And that was everything. Over the next year, my life changed completely. The 23 former foster children I'd found stayed in touch. They called. They visited. They invited me to family events. I went to graduations, weddings, birthday parties. I met grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the children I'd fostered. I became Grandma Dorothy to dozens of people I'd never met. Michael Torres and his family adopted me as honorary family. I had dinner with them once a month. I celebrated holidays with them. I wasn't alone anymore. I was surrounded by family. Not biological family, but family nonetheless. Family I'd created through 40 years of opening my home and my heart to children who needed it. One day, Sophia, Michael's sister, came to visit me alone. Mrs. Chen, I wanted to talk to you about something. Of course, dear. What is it? I'm a social worker. I work with the foster care system, and I've been thinking about my father. About you. About the impact one good foster parent can have. It's important work. It is. And Mrs. Chen, there's a shortage of good foster parents. There are so many kids who need homes, who need people like you. I'm too old to foster now. I know, but I was thinking, what if you could train foster parents? Share your wisdom? Teach people how to do what you did? Train foster parents? Yes. The agency I work for is starting a program. We want to bring in experienced foster parents to mentor new ones. To teach them. To support them. I don't know if I'd be any good at that. Mrs. Chen, you raised 62 children. You changed dozens of lives. You have 40 years of experience. You'd be perfect. I thought about it. I was 84 years old. I didn't have many years left. But maybe I could use those years to help more children. Indirectly. By teaching others how to do what I'd done. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Sophia's face lit up. Really? Really? When do I start? I started training foster parents 2 months later. Once a week I'd go to the agency. I'd meet with new foster parents. I'd share my experiences. I'd answer their questions. I'd offer support. It was exhausting, but it was also fulfilling. These new foster parents were nervous, scared, unsure if they were doing the right thing. I understood. I felt the same way 40 years ago, but I could help them. I could share what I'd learned. I could give them confidence. And through them, I could help even more children. One day, a young woman named Ashley came to see me. She was 28. She and her husband had just become foster parents to a 6-year-old boy named Tyler. "Mrs. Chen, I don't know if I can do this," Ashley said, tears in her eyes. "Tyler is so angry, so difficult. He won't listen to me. He won't let me hug him. I feel like I'm failing." I smiled. "Tell me about Tyler." "He's been in 3 foster homes before ours. He's been abused, neglected. He doesn't trust anyone. And you want to help him?" "Yes, but I don't know how." "Ashley, let me tell you about a little boy named David. He came to me when he was 8 years old. He was angry, scared. He wouldn't let me touch him for a month. What did you do?" "I was patient. I didn't push. I just showed up every day. I made him feel safe. I let him know that I wasn't going anywhere." "How long did it take?" 6 months. And then he went back to his mother. I only had him for 6 months. That must have been hard." It was. But Ashley, those 6 months changed his life. He's a teacher. Now, he has a family. He's happy. And it all started with 6 months of patience and kindness. Ashley was crying. "So you're saying I shouldn't give up?" "I'm saying that you never know the impact you're having. Tyler might seem angry and difficult now, but you're planting seeds. And those seeds will grow. Maybe not while he's with you. Maybe not for years. But they'll grow." "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I needed to hear that. You're doing important work, Ashley. Don't give up." 6 months later, Ashley came back to see me. "Mrs. Chen, I wanted to tell you something. Tyler is doing so much better. He's smiling now. He's talking to us. He even hugged me last week. That's wonderful. And it's because of you. Because of what you told me. You gave me hope when I wanted to give up. You did the work, Ashley. Not me. But you showed me the way." I hugged her. That's all any of us can do. Show each other the way. 2 years after Michael Torres knocked on my door, I was 85 years old. I'd trained over 100 foster parents. I'd helped dozens of children indirectly. And I'd reconnected with 31 of my former foster children. 31 out of 62. I'd found half of them. And every single one had a story about how I'd impacted their lives. Some of the stories were big. Lives saved. Paths changed. Futures created. Some of the stories were small. A kind word remembered. A hug that mattered. A moment of safety in a chaotic life. But all of them mattered. All of them proved that I hadn't been forgotten. That my life had meant something. One day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Mrs. Chen? This is Robert Williams. You probably don't remember me. I stayed with you for 3 weeks when I was 14. In 1992. Robert Williams." I searched my memory. "I remember. You were the teenager who didn't want to be there. You were angry about being in foster care." "That's me. Mrs. Chen, I've been looking for you for years. I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "Robert, you were only with me for 3 weeks. And you were so angry the whole time." "I know. I was a nightmare. But Mrs. Chen, you were kind to me anyway. Even when I was rude. Even when I pushed you away. You kept showing up. You kept being kind. That was my job. It was more than a job. Mrs. Chen, I was in a really dark place when I came to you. I was thinking about running away. About giving up. But those 3 weeks with you showed me that someone cared. That I mattered. What happened to you?" "I went back to my mom. She got her act together. I graduated high school. I went to college. I'm a therapist now. I work with at-risk youth." "That's wonderful. And Mrs. Chen, I tell my clients about you. I tell them that sometimes 3 weeks of kindness can change everything. Because that's what you did for me." I was crying. Again. "Thank you for finding me, Robert. Thank you for not giving up on me." 3 years after Michael Torres knocked on my door, I was 86 years old. My health was declining. I had trouble walking. I was tired all the time, but I was happy, happier than I'd ever been, because I wasn't alone. I was surrounded by family, by love, by proof that my life had mattered. Michael Torres visited me every week. He'd bring his family. We'd have dinner. We'd talk. We'd laugh. Other former foster children visited too. Jennifer, Marcus, Sarah, Robert. They'd bring their families, their children, their grandchildren. My small apartment was always full of people. People who existed because I'd shown kindness to a child decades ago. People who loved me. People who called me Grandma Dorothy. I thought I would die alone, but I was surrounded by more family than I'd ever imagined. One day, Michael came to visit alone. "Mrs. Chen, I have something to tell you." "What is it?" "My wife is pregnant. We're having another baby." "Oh, Michael, that's wonderful. We want to name her Dorothy, after you, if that's okay." I started crying. "You want to name your daughter after me?" "Yes, because Mrs. Chen, you're family. You've always been family, and we want our daughter to carry your name, to carry your legacy." "I'd be honored. There's something else. We want you to be her godmother. Officially." "Michael, I'm 86 years old. I don't know how much longer I have." "That doesn't matter. You'll always be part of our family. Always." I hugged him. "Thank you. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for giving me a family. Thank you for saving my father. For saving all of us." 4 years after Michael Torres knocked on my door, I was 87 years old. I was in the hospital. My heart was failing. The doctor said I didn't have much time left. But I wasn't afraid, because I wasn't alone. My hospital room was full of people. Michael and his family, Sophia and her family, Jennifer and her family, Marcus and his family, dozens of former foster children and their families, all there to say goodbye, all there to tell me they loved me, all there to thank me for changing their lives. "Mrs. Chen," Michael said, holding my hand, "I want you to know something. My father's last words were about you," he said. "Tell Dorothy I love her. Tell her she saved me. Tell her she mattered." "I love him too," I whispered. "I love all of you. We love you too, Grandma Dorothy." One by one they came to my bedside. They told me stories about how I'd impacted their lives, about the lessons I'd taught them, about the love I'd shown them. They told me about their children, about their careers, about their lives, lives that existed because I'd opened my home and my heart. "You changed the world, Mrs. Chen," Jennifer said. "One child at a time." "I just showed kindness," I whispered. "That's everything," Marcus said. "Kindness is everything." As the sun set, I looked around my hospital room, at all these people, all this love, all this family. I thought I would die alone, but I was surrounded by more love than I'd ever imagined. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you all for finding me, for reminding me that I mattered." "You've always mattered," Michael said. "You'll always matter." I closed my eyes, and I felt at peace. I'd lived a good life, a meaningful life, a life filled with love. I'd raised 62 children, and those children had raised hundreds more. My impact had rippled out into the world in ways I'd never imagined. I wasn't dying alone. I was dying surrounded by family, by love, by proof that my life had meant something, and that was everything. I died that night, peacefully, surrounded by love, and I wasn't afraid, because I knew my legacy would continue. In all the children I'd raised, in all the lives I'd touched, in all the kindness I'd shown. Love doesn't end with death. It continues. It ripples. It grows. That's what I learned. That's what I want you to know. You never know the impact you have on others. You never know which small act of kindness will change someone's life. You never know how far your influence will reach. So be kind. Show love. Open your heart. Because you might be planting seeds that will grow into forests. Forests you'll never see. Forests you'll never know exist. But they're there. Growing. Spreading. Touching lives you'll never meet. That's the legacy we all leave behind. Not money. Not possessions. Not achievements. But love. Kindness. Impact. That's what matters. That's what lasts. That's everything. My funeral was held a week after I died. I'd left instructions. I wanted it to be simple. No fuss, just a small service. But that's not what happened. Over 300 people came. Former foster children, their spouses, their children, their grandchildren, foster parents I'd trained, social workers I'd worked with, people from the senior community where I'd lived, and people I'd never met, people who'd been touched by the children I'd raised, students of David Torres, patients of Jennifer Martinez, clients of Marcus Johnson. The church was packed. Michael Torres gave the eulogy. Dorothy Chen thought she would die alone, he began. She thought she'd been forgotten, that her life hadn't mattered. But she was wrong. So wrong. He told the story of his father, of how I'd fostered David for 6 months when he was 8, of how those 6 months had changed David's life. My father became a teacher because of Dorothy. He taught for 35 years. He changed hundreds of lives. And all of it started with 6 months of kindness from a woman who thought she'd been forgotten. Michael looked out at the crowd. But my father wasn't the only one. Look around this room. Every person here has been touched by Dorothy Chen, either directly or indirectly. She raised 62 children. Those children raised hundreds more. Those hundreds raised thousands. Dorothy's impact has rippled out into the world in ways she never imagined. He pulled out a piece of paper. I did some math. Conservative estimates. Dorothy directly fostered 62 children. Those children had an average of 2 children each. That's 124 grandchildren. Those grandchildren are now having children. That's hundreds of great-grandchildren. And that's just biological descendants of the children she fostered. But it doesn't stop there. Dorothy trained over 100 foster parents in her final years. Those foster parents have fostered hundreds of children. Those children will have children. And on and on. Dorothy's father became a teacher. He taught over 1,000 students in his career. Some of those students became teachers. They've taught thousands more. Jennifer Martinez became a nurse. She's treated thousands of patients, saved dozens of lives. Marcus Johnson became a social worker. He's helped hundreds of foster children find safe homes. And the ripples keep spreading, further and further, touching lives Dorothy never met. Lives that exist because she showed kindness to a scared child decades ago. Michael's voice broke. Dorothy Chen thought she would die alone. But she died surrounded by more family than most people could ever dream of. And her legacy will continue for generations. Because love doesn't end with death. It ripples. It grows. It transforms. Dorothy, if you can hear me, I want you to know, you mattered. You changed the world. And we will never forget you. The church erupted in applause. People stood. They cried. They hugged each other. And they told stories. Story after story about Dorothy Chen. About the kindness she'd shown. About the lives she'd changed. About the impact she'd made. Jennifer Martinez spoke. Dorothy taught me that I was worth something. That I mattered. That changed everything. Marcus Johnson spoke. Dorothy showed me what love looked like. I've spent my career trying to show other children the same thing. Robert Williams spoke. I was only with Dorothy for 3 weeks. But those 3 weeks saved my life. Ashley, the young foster parent I'd mentored, spoke. Dorothy taught me to be patient. To plant seeds. To trust that those seeds would grow. She was right. One by one they came forward. 62 stories. One for each child I'd fostered. Some of the children had died. But their families came and told their stories. Some of the children couldn't be found. But others told stories they'd heard. Every single one of the 62 children I'd fostered was represented. Every single one had a story about how I'd impacted their life. I thought I'd been forgotten. But I'd been remembered. By all of them. After the funeral, they gathered at the community center. Michael had organized something. A memorial project. Dorothy left behind letters. He explained. Letters she'd written to each of us over the years. Letters she never sent because she thought we'd forgotten her. But she kept them. And in her will, she asked that they be given to us. He handed out envelopes. 62 envelopes. One for each child. Inside each envelope was a letter. A personal letter from me to that child. Letters I'd written over the years, wondering about them, hoping they were okay, telling them I remembered them, telling them I loved them. Letters I'd never sent because I thought they wouldn't care. But they did care. They read the letters and cried. She never forgot us, Jennifer said. She remembered all of us. She loved us, Marcus said. Even after we left. Even after years of silence. She loved us. Michael stood up. Dorothy thought she'd been forgotten. But she was wrong. And I think we need to make sure the world knows that. I think we need to make sure her legacy continues. What do you mean? Someone asked. I mean, we create something in her honor. A foundation. A scholarship. Something that helps foster children. Something that carries on her work. Yes, Jennifer said. Absolutely yes. And that's how the Dorothy Chen Foundation was born. They pooled their resources. The $50,000 David Torres had left me. Donations from everyone who'd attended the funeral. Fundraising efforts. Within a year, they'd raised over $1 million. They created scholarships for former foster children. They funded training programs for foster parents. They supported group homes and foster care agencies. They made sure my work continued. 5 years after I died, the Dorothy Chen Foundation had helped over 1,000 children. 10 years after I died, they'd helped over 5,000. 20 years after I died, they'd helped over 20,000. My impact kept growing. Even after I was gone, Michael Torres became the foundation's director. He dedicated his life to it. This is my purpose, he told a reporter once. Continuing Dorothy's work, making sure her legacy lives on. Jennifer Martinez joined the board. So did Marcus Johnson. So did dozens of other former foster children. They all wanted to give back, to honor my memory, to help other children the way I'd helped them. The foundation grew. It expanded to other states. It helped tens of thousands of children. And every child who was helped learned about me. About Dorothy Chen. About the foster mother who'd thought she would die alone but who'd actually changed the world. 30 years after I died, they erected a statue. In the park near the foster care agency where I'd trained parents. A bronze statue of me. Sitting on a bench. With a child next to me. The plaque read, Dorothy Chen. 1940 to 2023. Foster mother to 62 children. Grandmother to thousands. She thought she would die alone. She was wrong. Michael Torres was 78 years old when the statue was unveiled. His daughter Dorothy, named after me, was there with her own children. My great-grandmother never met Dorothy Chen, young Dorothy said. But she exists because of her. We all do. Michael looked at the statue and smiled. She thought she'd been forgotten. But we'll never forget her. Never. 50 years after I died, a documentary was made about my life. It told the story of the foster mother who'd raised 62 children, who'd thought she'd die alone, who'd been wrong. It interviewed dozens of people, former foster children, their grandchildren. It traced the ripples of my impact, showing how one act of kindness could change a life. How one changed life could change hundreds more. The documentary won awards. It was shown in schools. It inspired thousands of people to become foster parents. My impact kept growing. 100 years after I died, a book was written about me. The woman who thought she'd die alone. The Dorothy Chen story. It became a bestseller. It told my story. All of it. The 62 children. The letters I'd written. The foundation that had been created in my honor. It told the stories of the children I'd raised. Where they'd gone. What they'd become. How they'd changed the world. It calculated my impact. Conservatively, I directly or indirectly touched over 100,000 lives. 100,000 people who existed or were better off because I'd shown kindness to a child. The book ended with a question. How many lives will you touch? How far will your kindness ripple? 200 years after I died, I was largely forgotten by the general public. But not by the families I'd touched. They still told stories about me. Great-great-great-grandchildren of the children I'd fostered still knew my name. The Dorothy Chen Foundation still existed. Still helped children. My statue still stood in the park. My legacy lived on. Because love doesn't end with death. It ripples. It grows. It transforms. It lasts forever. I'm telling you this story for a reason. 'Cause maybe you're like I was. Maybe you think your life doesn't matter, that you'll be forgotten, that you haven't made a difference. But you're wrong. You have no idea the impact you've had on others. That kind word you said to a stranger? It might have saved their life. That time you helped someone? It might have changed their path. That moment of patience? It might have taught someone how to love. You're planting seeds every day. Seeds you'll never see grow. But they're growing. Trust me, they're growing. Your impact is rippling out into the world in ways you can't imagine. You matter. Your life matters. Your kindness matters. Don't give up. Don't think you're alone. Don't think you've been forgotten. Because somewhere someone remembers you. Someone's life is better because of you. Someone exists because you showed kindness. You're not alone. You never were. You're connected to dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of people you've never met. People whose lives are better because you existed. That's your legacy. Not money, not fame, not achievements, but love, kindness, impact. That's what lasts. That's what matters. That's everything. Dorothy Chen thought she would die alone, but she died surrounded by more love than she'd ever imagined. And her legacy continues to this day, touching lives, changing futures, rippling out into the world. All because she showed kindness to children who needed it. All because she opened her heart. All because she loved. You can do the same. You're doing the same. You just don't know it yet. But trust me, you matter. Your life matters. And you will never be forgotten. Because love doesn't end. It ripples. Forever. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed Dorothy's journey from thinking she'd die alone to discovering the incredible legacy she'd built, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything and helps me continue sharing these stories about the ripple effects of kindness, the power of foster care, and the profound impact one person can have on the world. I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts and comments about Dorothy's story. Have you ever reconnected with someone from your past who told you that you changed their life? Do you think we underestimate our impact on others? Have you been a foster parent or foster child? Share your thoughts below. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. Stories of unexpected connections, forgotten kindnesses remembered, and the beautiful ways our lives touch others without us even knowing. There's so much more on my channel about people who discovered their lives mattered far more than they ever imagined. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story. Thank you so much for your sweet support and for being part of this community. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.